And the crowd that comes here also has a lot of side projects and startups that they're working on. So what I try to do is go through the room, and at the end of the session I'm talking, I'll go through the room and ask for what people are working on, and also, if they're working on a startup, they can give a shout out to their startup and tell the others what that startup is. Or if they are stuck at something and they have an ask, like, hey, I want to meet someone with certain experience and I don't have anyone in my network, can anyone in the group, or can you connect me to so-and-so? And we try to get some of the asks, and we'll try to seek help from the other. There's about 2,700 folks in this meetup group, so there's someone in the group that may have some connection that you might be looking for. So we try to do that at the end. And I'll go back to the sponsors. So we have Funnel AI, one of our sponsors, and also the startup basically that I'm part of right now. And what we do at Funnel AI is that we try to collect conversations that happen on the internet and try to understand the context of those conversations and the intent of those conversations. And if people are looking for products and services, we try to find those potential customers and connect them with the businesses that sell or serve those services. And we use machine learning and other things. I know everyone is doing machine learning and AI, but our core product is built on machine learning to segregate all those intents, find those context and other things, natural language processing and so on. And you can find more about us at funnelai.com. And Lenamod.com is a peer-to-peer rental service where you can rent things that you own but you're not using all the time. Likewise, you can rent things from others that you don't have instead of buying them and maybe using it once or twice. So you'll save some money there, or if you're renting your things, you can make some money. You can go to lenamod.com. And Capital Factory, we are very thankful for Capital Factory for giving us the space to have our meetups. And as you all know, this is the hub of entrepreneurship in Austin. Thousands of meetups happen here. I think last year there was like 3,000 meetups that happened in Capital Factory. And there's more activity in the way of like accelerator program that they have, the membership program they have, and also co-working spaces and so on. And by the way, if anyone is looking to test Capital Factory membership, just let me know. I can put you in touch with a Capital Factory member that can give you a 1 month free trial of the co-working and membership at Capital Factory. So you can just email me or connect with me on LinkedIn or Slack or any other means. And I'll also just go through a couple of things here. Okay, so this is the funnelai.com, and this is lenamod.com, and capitalfactory.com. And one other thing I also wish to show you is the newsletter that I send out. So every month before the event, I usually send out, like 1 or 2 days before the event, I usually send out a newsletter where I kind of put together some resources, especially resources like the deadlines for any of the local accelerator programs or any of the events in town that are of use to the startup community. And this is today's newsletter that I sent out. As you can see, there's an application deadline for the Texas Venture Labs. So Texas Venture Labs is a no equity, it's kind of a no cost, no equity accelerator. So they don't take equity from your company, and they take in all sorts of companies. They don't have any vertical preference or anything like that. Any verticals, and usually early stage companies, but you can also be a little later in the process of your company, and they'll still take in. They'll still accept your application. So if you want to know more about that, I think the application is due tomorrow. So if you want to apply for that, I put the link in there, and also TMCX Accelerator. That's a Texas Medical Center Accelerator for companies in the healthcare and medical space, and it's usually early stage companies accelerator. So they take in early stage companies, and then the deadline is again tomorrow. I put the link to the application also there, or you can just Google and find it out. And I don't know how many of you know Y Combinator's startup school program. So Y Combinator runs a free online startup school program. So it's basically like a pre-accelerator kind of thing. So if you're interested in joining Y Combinator, usually you need to, you face a lot of competition, and your startup needs to have a certain eligibility criteria to meet those conditions for their Y Combinator's regular programs, summer programs and winter programs. But then this is like an online program that you don't need to go anywhere. You can do it from your own desk at your home or office. And they opened their registrations. I think last year they did like they pulled in like 3,000 companies in their program, and the year before they had last year it was 15,000 companies, and the year before it was like 3,000 companies that they took on in their program. Usually the companies that they take on is like around 3,000 figure, but last year there was an application snafu, and then they had to accept all of the people that applied. So that's Y Combinator's application. I think their program starts in January, but then I don't know the exact due date of that application. You can go to startupschool.org and find out that. And I also put in some application deadlines for other accelerators. Not an exhaustive list, but nevertheless a few accelerators that might be useful. And if you have any jobs or any help or hiring requests, let me know. I can put it in the newsletter as well. And then I also put a member showcase in the newsletter. So these are all the companies that I hear from people that come to this meetup and give a shout out to their company. I usually note it down, and I put it in the member showcase, so that way when the newsletter goes to the larger group, they can also know about the other companies that other people in the group are working on. So this is a newsletter that I send out every month. So if you're on meetup.com, if you join this group on meetup.com, you'll invariably get this newsletter. If not, let me know and I can send you a link. So with that said, let me go back to here. And so again, some of those upcoming deadlines for some accelerators in December and January. I think Mucker Lab or Mucker Lab, I don't know how they call it, but that's one of the probably top 10 or top 20 accelerators in the US. The ones that are the one that is due on 18th of December. So and then there's others as well here. And then for people that are new to Austin, there's all those applications, the accelerator applications and incubator applications that I talked about. You can find them on f6s.com or AngelList, and you can actually look at all the other application deadlines and submit your applications from there as well. And then there's quite a few accelerators in town with different flavors. There's some that are focused on vertical, some that are equity free, and some that have certain affiliations with different companies and so on. For example, RealCo is an accelerator in San Antonio focused on B2B companies. And if you're a B2B company, I would advise checking out RealCo. And it's like a more like a 15-month long-term accelerator program than a short-term three-month come and go kind of accelerator program. So again, that's in San Antonio. Mass Challenge Texas is another accelerator that we have personally been through. That's in town and also in Houston, and that's like one of the top 10 accelerators in the US. They have like different programs, one in Boston, one in Austin, one in Houston, one in Israel, and then somewhere else as well. So, and that's an equity-free accelerator. They don't take equity in your company, and any company and any stage. I think they have a requirement that you should not have raised more than 500,000 before applying for the accelerator. So that's the only restriction I believe they have, but you can check it out at Mass Challenge, Texas. And Founder Institute is also another accelerator in town that takes more like a very early stage companies. I mean, you could almost think of it as an incubator rather than accelerator, but Founder Institute is a great one. And then there's like ATI, Bunker Labs. Bunker Labs is focused on veterans. DivInc is focused on diversity inclusion, so more diverse founders. Medical Innovation Labs is for healthcare. Medical Tarmac Texas is another equity-free accelerator program, but they vary on their focus every year. So this year their focus was on green tech companies, and then last year it was a different focus, and next year it might be a different focus. And again, equity-free, and they are affiliated with 3M, the company 3M that you all may have heard. So they're part of that company. So that's their SKU is a retail-focused accelerator. So if you're working on retail companies, SKU is the one to apply to. JBTVL is the Texas Venture Labs. I think this one also has an application due soon, maybe tomorrow, I think. You can check out JBTVL. It's I think it's affiliated with the University of Texas, and they also provide you, basically they connect you with students that, UT students that will do the market research and other things for you. And again, I think it's also equity free, but you can check it out. Sputnik is another accelerator in town. Techstars, many people know about Techstars, one of the most well-known accelerators here. International accelerator focused on international founders, foreign founders. Oracle Startup Accelerator is, I mean, as the name suggests, it is part of the Oracle company, and then that's also equity free, and I think they're based in Capital Factory. I mean, I don't know which floor, but they're based in Capital Factory. You can also see the Oracle Startup logo there on the window. And coming to funding, Texas is still a little ways to go when you compare it with the Bay Area or the Northeast. But then we do have an active funding scene here. There's various syndicates, angels, and also VCs in town or around town. Active Capital is in San Antonio. They've invested in Funnel AI. Geekdom Fund also invested in us. They're also based in San Antonio. Libo Partners in Silverton are based in Austin. Even CTAN, which is the Central Texas Angel Network, is based in Austin. And they also have office hours. So basically, if you want to apply to CTAN, before applying, you can also, they do like twice a month office hours. So you can go to their office and then meet with one of those one of their associates and pitch your idea to them and then get some feedback, and if they'll probably be able to tell you whether you're gonna get accepted into their program or not. And then Alamo Angels is again in San Antonio. It used to be called San Antonio Angel Network, but now it's Alamo Angels. And Quake Capital is in Austin again. And then there's lots more that I haven't put here. This is just a small smattering of the resources that we have here. And then another few resources, AngelList and F6S we already talked about. LinkedIn, again, everyone knows LinkedIn. Austin Digital Jobs is a Facebook group where you can post or find tech jobs. Austin Tech Volunteers is another Facebook group where you can find or post tech initiatives to volunteer for. TechMap co-founders. So I was talking about other meetups in town where you can go and pitch, right? So TechMap co-founders meetup it happens every second or maybe every first Tuesday or Monday. I fail to remember, but you can actually find it on Meetup, or you can go to TechMap website and find it. But that's a great meetup if you want to go and pitch. There's usually 5 or 6 companies that come and pitch at the meetup, and you get a chance to look at a lot of companies at the same time. And again, There's a lot of, it has good attendance as well, so you can go to that meetup and get some networking and other things done. Austin Startups is a Facebook group. I think there's 2 Austin Startup Facebook groups, but this is the one which has the higher membership, about 21,000 or so. There's lots of activity in there, lots of discussions happening in there. So you can find out, if you have any questions, you can post there or get some help there as well. For people that are looking for more structured startup, orientation classes and kind of thing, you can look up Y Combinator's startup classes. I think you can search in YouTube, and there's Y Combinator has put in all those classes in there, and basically those classes are also part of the startup school program. So the updated classes will be also available in startupschool.org. So if you want, you can also check out startupschool.org and find those videos for the previous batch. They put it on there, and also YouTube, and they're more structured. They talk about each aspect of the startups in a more structured manner, and have like more people with good caliber talking about people that have that have graduated out of the Y Combinator cohorts come and talk about that. So there's a good that's a good resource. And again, local meetups, everyone knows. And startupinfomatters.com is a web resource. You can go there and find out at a glance, you can find out a lot of resources about accelerator programs, co-working. You can also find the list of VCs and other things. I think it has like at a glance picture of all resources available in Austin, as well as in the greater in Texas as well. So not just limited to Austin. I think that is maintained by the director of Mass Challenge Texas, Mike Millard, and it may have a little outdated information, but you'll still find a lot of information there. So and then acceleratetexas.co is another resource that the accelerators in town have come together and put up. So basically, they get a lot of questions as to which accelerator people, the founders want to apply to, and they're not usually aware of all the accelerator programs in town. So what they did was all the accelerators in town have come together and put up a resource where you as a founder can answer a few set of questions about your company, the stage of your company, whether you want to give up equity or not, and what kind of program you're looking for, and so on. And then it'll kind of give a suggestion as to which accelerators match your criteria, and then you can take your applications forward from there. I think they plan to iterate on that and make it much more helpful to the thing. And I think I missed that Solo Founders Facebook group. That's one of the one of our members who was a solo founder. He started that because he was getting a little lonely, building his own startup and then not having to interact with anyone. So he found he created a Facebook group for as a support group for all the solo founders. So if you are a solo founder and feeling lonely, you can check out that Facebook group. Okay, so the other thing I'd like to just touch upon is if any of your, I know a lot of people in the early stage, they work on their own product. They're either 1 or 2 person team, don't have a lot of resources at hand. So if you're developing an app or product or service and want to get feedback from a larger group, let me know. I can just send out a newsletter or send out a note to the larger group to to check out your app or test your app and things like that. So anyone in the group might be interested in helping you with that can reach out to you, and you can have some additional help. Again, if you want help with spreading the word about your products or services or things like that, I'll usually include that in the newsletter, and we also tweet on our official Twitter channel. So let me know, and I'm more than happy to tweet about your product or service or whatever app or whatever you have there. Again, looking for jobs or looking to hire someone, let me know. I'll just shoot out a note to the group. And any other startup questions you have, let me know. I may not have all the answers again, but I'll just shoot out a note to the group, and people that can answer your question might reach out to you. Again, so this is something that I try to do before at all the events that we have here. So the idea is that the sessions that we have here may not cater to everyone that attends these sessions. Some might come here for a different purpose than what we are having the session for on that particular day. So, however, one thing we can guarantee is that because you have more people than usual that come here that you can meet in normal events, we say that at least one thing we can guarantee is that you can meet a new person, new connection that you have not made before you came to this meetup. So if nothing else, you can go back from this meetup with a new connection, a new networking connection or something like that. So we'll take a quick 1 minute break. Just look to your right and left and find one person that you have not met before you came to this meetup, and just introduce yourself, know who they are, maybe exchange LinkedIn contacts or whatever, and then we'll regroup again. We'll take just 1 minute from now. Okay. Hello, everyone. We'll regroup again. I hope you made a new connection, and I hope that you continue the conversations with those connections that you made here, even after the event is done. And we'll have some time for the networking after the event as well, and then we can go from there. So a quick, I'll ask a quick few questions about to understand the nature of the audience that we have here. Is there any investor in the group here? Any investors in the group here today? No? Okay. I know there's one person that used to sit there. He'll come back, but I know he is planning to invest in some companies, but we can talk to him later. Any of you have a startup that's already published out there, not something that you're working on that no one has seen, but available to public, open to public? There's one. So one founder with a published startup. Okay. Any of you working on your own ideas on the side but have not made it as a startup yet, or have not released to the public yet? Cool. I think you have few. And anyone here for just connections or looking for jobs or things like that? This one? Okay. A couple? Okay. Awesome. I think I'll skip on the other ones because, yeah. Next meetup, we have it on January 28th. So we usually have it on the fourth Tuesday, this month being the fourth Tuesday being in the holiday time frame. We had to move it up to December 12th. And I think that's probably also why we have a smaller crowd. But then if you want to see any specific topics to be discussed here, I gave some examples like startup law, patents, and so on. I know we already discussed startup law, venture capital, marketing, and customer acquisition this year. But if you want any topics that you want to see discussed here, let us know as well. We can schedule those events too. And if you want to present, we have a form where you can just fill in your information, and when we do the pitch sessions once a quarter, we'll call you up and you can present at that time. Okay, with that said, we'll turn it over to our speaker today, Andrew Fan. You want to come on? Yeah.
Works. Oh, yes, it did. Hey everyone, I'm Andrew. Nice to meet you all. Oh, it's not AA, guys. You guys can say hi back. It's fine. It's like, hi, Andrew. Interesting story came in. People keep telling me that to tell people I got into a fight with a kangaroo, but I have a black eye, so I tripped outside on the sidewalk, so not that exciting. But if you see me pass out midway through the presentation, maybe call a doctor or something. Just a side note. So you guys are sort of all here. Again, we had a quick show. So don't mind the accent, guys. I'm originally from Australia, so if you don't know what I'm saying, are you from Australia too? No. Oh, you did? That's great. Yeah. Well, it's very different to here. Hold on. I'm just going to quickly see if I can get this operating on my... Yes, got it working. Okay, so a couple key things we want to cover today. Before I do that, quick show of hands again. So who's in ideation phase still? So who's still working on their idea and developing it by themselves? Great. That's great. And who's sort of already taken steps to move forward as well? Great. And is that by yourselves or in a small team? Those who have moved forward as well. So small team. Sweet. So this kind of like, if you guys were expecting a really techie presentation, probably not going to happen. This is more about process, what to think about, and it's questions to sort of ask yourself as well as assess who to work with and what kind of a team you sort of want to be in. So today we're going to go over things, the hero's journey. It's particularly used in film and in storytelling. It's actually used a lot in film, but it's actually been around for thousands of years. It's understood as the way that we think and feel, but I'll go through that in a second. Why point of view matters. Setting smart goals for yourself. And then if we have time, we might grab someone, maybe workshop through a process and sort of do that. And then we'll just summarize everything up. So this is me. If I am a transplant of Austin, is anyone else a transplant? It sounds, yeah, yep. It looks like not everyone. Oh, wait, there's a bunch of you that did not put your hand up. Does that mean you're all from here? Been here for 5 years. Well, a transplant, yeah. Well, I've been here 3, guys. So my background before this, I worked in music management. I also was a journalist for a newspaper in Australia. And then I worked into, what I kind of learned about myself and what I'm passionate about is the craft of storytelling. So after doing journalism and going to film school and studying how to screenplay, there was a correlation between the way that we think and feel, and then how that applies not just to us on a personal level, but on a business level as well. So, my goal as a person is to make the world better storytellers, one story at a time. So that's mine or yours or whoever's. So that's just a little bit about my background. So let's answer that question. So what is story? Well, what is story to you guys? Do you guys have any idea of what a story might be? I mean, you guys can talk. It's okay. It's it's totally fine. Well, cool. Yeah. So you have to start somewhere, you have to finish somewhere, and there's somewhere in the middle. Well, ultimately, if you really want to boil it down, it's a logical retelling of events that leads to a conclusion. Okay, great. Well, how's that help? Well, basically, it's I want something. There are obstacles in the way. How do I get over those obstacles? That entails what a story is. I mean, in its simplest form, there's more to it, but basically it's I want to do something has happened to me, and I want to get somewhere or do something. That's what story is. But that doesn't mean that that's an effective story. That's just a story. So what's an effective story? Well, the adding of emotion. So the interesting point about this emotional concept is emotion is something, if you hear a baby crying or you see somebody that's sad, and even the coldest person will feel something. They won't feel sorry for them. They may feel something else. They may feel like disdain, but they feel something. Emotion is the access point or the key to when we want to explain a logical story. So if, for example, I want to tell you, don't touch that stove, it's hot, you may or may not listen to me. But if I tell you a story about it, you'll feel the pain, you'll empathize, or you'll be disgusted by it, but you'll still understand the point that I'm saying. Emotion is that goal. So to have emotion plus the storytelling of having the want and over obstacles, that's what an impactful story is. So why is storytelling kind of important? This is kind of a little bit of the hero's journey structure. Well, storytelling is important because today we kind of live in a world where we're super connected. 84% of the millennial generation, for example, are connected on Facebook. 84%. That's a huge amount of people. And if you think generations before that aren't connected, last year 26% were connected. Now it's 37 1 year later. So if you think story isn't important and it's only a generational thing, it's very important because we're so hyper-connected, there's so much information. On average, everyone has about 335 friends on Facebook, they say, statistically. So that means 335 people with 335 stories, and then ads, and all that kind of stuff. So what's your point of difference? And how do we even work that out? And that's only on a branding perspective. When it comes to thinking about our own story and what are we going to do in the future, or how we develop our things, how do we even know what to do that? Am I doing the right thing? We ask ourselves those questions all the time. Like, is this process I'm building worthwhile? Is someone going to buy it? What should I be looking for? Who do I work with? That kind of stuff. So before we even get into the story, this is really important. So the ancient Greeks in ancient Greece, they had a school called the School of Rhetorics. So rhetorics, basically it's a speech-giving school. And in that speech-giving school, they worked out that there were three things. They called them rhetorical appeals. So I simplified it into three pillars of story. So to convince someone of anything, or to see if someone aligns with you, and to express your point of view, you need three key things, guys. It's on the screen. I don't know if you can see it, if it's big enough. But in the three Greek words, and they teach it in high school here too, is ethos, logos, and pathos. So the ethos is this person a good person? Are they an expert at what they're talking about? Secondly, does their logic make sense? Does it go, can I follow them from A to B to C? Does it make sense? And then last but not least, is can I connect with them emotionally? Do I find some way to relate to what they're saying? Do I have an emotional connection? They say that once you've sort of gotten all these three things covered out in when you're speaking to people, you can say anything after that and people will believe you. But it also, this is really important to me because it's a measure of, if you really have to know yourself, what your ethics are, what your logic is, and what your story is, and what your emotion is, to really know and find someone else, whether that's your audience. So if you have a product, you want to attract people with the same thinking. You want to attract people with the same logic. You want to attract people who feel the same pains that you feel. I mean, that's the goal. Like I said before, we're so hyper-connected. You don't have to appeal to every single person around you. You just have to find your tribe. So your tribe of people who think like you, who need the same things as you, have the same frustrations, and whatever triggered you will trigger them the same way. And that's why you started your journey in the first place. You found a need. Well, I'm talking about the businesses, the people, the founders who really care about what they're doing. They're not just doing a turn and burn kind of business that they're building up and trying to sell off. Passionate about what they're doing. So we use that to define us, the characters, the heroes. We define our friends. We define who we work with. We define the enemies of us, so people who have the opposite mentality. Maybe not the enemy, but just the obstacles in our way as well. So this is the hero's journey in a circular form. So used throughout history. It applies to many things, and we don't have enough time today to sort of go over how it applies to branding, and how it applies to marketing, and how it applies to how you attract your audiences. That's probably another conversation. But I'm going to spend a little time and go over it in detail. And feel free to ask questions. If you guys get confused anywhere, let me know. So this screen will be up for a little bit. So the hero's journey sort of breaks up into 3 acts, guys. So the first part of the hero's journey over here, Act 1, they call it, can you guys see the screen, or is it too small for everyone to read? It's kind of small. I'll get into more detail about it. But basically, I'll start general here. I'll get into more detail. But this side here is Act 1. So they call that the ordinary world. So what happens in actually, if I go to the slide before, there we go. So the ordinary world is up here, where it's the world we currently live in, the current life we currently have before anything sort of happened. And then when we start our process, it's called the special world, and eventually we return back to the ordinary world. Now, it sounds a little cryptic, but we're going to get there. Basically, what it's saying is something that started you on your journey, and then your journey eventually comes back around. So the hero's journey has its main application, guys, when there's an extraordinary event. So it doesn't mean every day you're going through a hero's journey. I'm sure there's a small hero's journey. I'm thirsty, I want a coffee, I need to go to the store, I went out in the store, I tripped on the sidewalk, I have a black eye, I went and got a coffee. Hero's journey, great. But it's usually framed around extraordinary life-changing events. So I'll get to that, but I'll go through it in detail. So the first part of that line or that circle in the ordinary world is where you should do your assessment. So the first part is called the fragile equilibrium. So an equilibrium is a world that's currently, let me come back over here, a world that's currently balanced. So nothing's wrong in your current life. However, they call it a fragile equilibrium because there can be a tipping point. It can happen that will change your world. And that's probably what will trigger you on your journey. So in that question, you ask yourself from a business perspective, what is the current state of the world that I'm living in, that this idea came from? What is the environment? Who are you? What is your position in society? How you feel about things? What are your goals? What's happening in your life right now? And then also, it's a way to see if your product is right for the market right now. Is it something that's important? The next thing that you need to assess is what was your call to adventure? So what was the motivation for change? What event triggered you to go, I'm having spine issues. I wish I had a straighter back. I'm going to find a beeping thing that makes me sit up straight. Came out there. Like a heavy blanket to help me sleep better. Something happened that you go, like when you go to bed, you wear like 5 blankets. You're like, man, I wish they just had 1 blanket that was heavier. What was your call to adventure? So the next key thing is establishing goals. I'm really kind of rushing through this, but establishing goals, this particular goal, guys, is not a closed goal. So like I said to you at the beginning, my goal is to make everybody in the world better storytellers, one story at a time. That's an impossible task. I'm not going to speak to several billion people and make them all better storytellers, but I can start one story at a time. It's an open goal. It's an open-ended goal. So let me give you an example. This is probably an example of some of the greatest entrepreneurs ever in fiction. So if you guys can see the screen. So everybody has at least seen one of these movies, right? Any of them? So we've got Harry Potter, Star Wars, The Matrix, Spider-Man, The Lion King, and Lord of the Rings. Yeah, have you guys seen? Can I get a nod? Cool, great. So I'm going to go with Star Wars because I think I can follow that one the easiest for me. So it says here that Luke Skywalker lives on a moisture farm in Tatooine. So that's his ordinary world. That's his fragile equilibrium. He's a bratty kid who, okay, he doesn't have his parents. Okay, I get that. I feel bad for him. But he lives on a moisture farm. He didn't want to do his chores. It's this kid. He's a kid, you know. So we learn that straight away. The second thing that happens, the call to adventure, the event that triggers him to start doing something, is R2-D2 gives Luke a message from Princess Leia asking Obi-Wan Kenobi to help her. So there is something that, it's an event that happened to the hero. So that in the same thing in your lives, what event triggered you to start this process of developing a business or coming up with an idea? And if you don't know these answers, really think about it, because to really find your audience and to push your business, you have to know yourself and you have to know what it is that you were trying to achieve. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next section. So from here, once the goal is established, they call it a threshold scene. So you start to go on your adventure. You start to work things out. So here's the next part. Tests, friends, enemies, and allies. So 1, your mentor. Find people that you're going to work with, and a mentor is going to be one of them. Find out, look at, and it doesn't have to be a physical person. It can be anyone. It could be a resource on the internet that you've been inspired by, looking at the models of other companies. See what other people have done. Find out who is similar to you. Find out, and this is where I was talking about before with the pathos, ethos, and logos. You need to find people not exactly with the same skill set, but have the same desire or the same motivations or inspired by the same thing. You want someone, I think a good question if people are taking notes is honestly ask yourself and write a list of 10 things that you absolutely love about yourself and you are really important to you and that you really find important. If you write those 10 things down, you can start to identify and prioritize what it is that's important to you. So find people with the same kind of ideas. Try things out. Explore different options and avenues that you can do. What methods can you try? Can you try different strategies? Build it this way? Can I find a cheaper way to do it? But try a bunch of different things. And then lastly, you kind of also have to start to identify some things that are going to get in the way. So I want to talk a little bit more about finding your allies, guys. So there's a website, the Ambassador Profile, which is really an interesting point. Make a self-assessment and see which of these 4 categories you fall under. So are you a generator? Do you like to get things started? You come up with crazy ideas. Are you a conceptualizer? You take those crazy ideas and then you define what the problems are and you work it out. An optimizer, I enjoy turning ideas into practical solutions. Are you that person in the chain? Are you a person who's already going, okay, they've got an idea, I know how to make that happen, and then the implementer goes and gets it done. They say like, all these companies need to have one of these 4. The other thing that I didn't put a slide up for and don't have too much time to go into, but they say that every successful company requires 3 particular types of people. So 1, they call them the 3 alphas. So an operational alpha, someone who loves books, loves numbers, loves paperwork, loves dealing with the technical order of things, creating schedules, calendars, that kind of person. The second person that you need is a sales alpha. So somebody who will talk to a ton of people, loves being out there, being among the people. And then the third alpha, which is also one of the key, they're all equally important, is the expert alpha. They know the product in and out. They were the ones who planted the seed in the first place and know everything about it. As well as having these 4 roles come together. You'll find that those 3 kinds of people will fill several hats. Okay, let's have a little bit back to the fun. So what happens next in the hero's journey is before the hero goes on the adventure, he's hesitant. There's some levels of resistance. So Luke is reluctant. He's like, I can't, my aunt and uncle need me on the farm. I need to grow moisture. Neo talks to Trinity, for example, and wasn't sure if it's a dream. There's a whole bunch of things of resisting, but eventually people go on the journey. We meet the mentor. Okay. So now what do we do? Well, the next part is go and try it. Build your product. Go and run it. You've worked out who the kinds of people you need to work with. You know, you understand your values. You understand their values. Go and try it out. You know, you should by now also have a feeling of who your audience is too, because you should be able to identify with them because they identify with you, and that's who you're targeting. You don't you don't have to hit everybody, just hit the people that matter to you and that you want to keep working with. Now, this solution, I'm not saying that this is for everybody, but I am saying that there are enough people out there across the world, no matter what your product or service, to buy in. It doesn't have to appeal to everyone. And it's also going to make life a whole lot easier for you if you're working with people and providing services to people who share the same values. Like, I'll just say that right up front. You could try to catch them all, but you know, there's only 151 Pokemon, so that's a millennial reference. But so go and try it out. Go and try and sort it out. Eventually, you're going to realize some things. So after your first attempt, you're going to realize my first attempt at trying to make everybody better storytellers without a clear closed goal is an issue. Because it's like, what am I going to do? I can't just go out in the street and stand on a soapbox and be like, you, be a better storyteller. This is how you do it. Like, it doesn't work. So you have to start to develop SMART goals. If you guys, again, we don't have time to go in detail, but look up what SMART goals are. Specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timely. You know, set yourself a time frame to do specific tasks and specific goals. And one of the ways that's always been suggested to me is start big. Like, have your big idea. I want to make everybody better storytellers. Okay, well, the next level down, what's the next task? Go and talk to people. Make videos about it. Go and do that. Okay, well, if I have to make a video about it, what's the next thing? Learn how to make videos. Okay, I've learned how to make videos. I don't have any equipment. Get equipment. Everything granulizes down, but if you don't write it down, you're not going to think about it. So really think about that process. And once you've worked through all your issues and you resolve those issues, take the Holy Grail. Grab that information, work out what's wrong, and then learn from it and learn from that mistake. So like in the movies we talk about as well, I mean, we're not going to have a crazy amount of time to go through this detail. I'm happy to send this deck out later so you guys can have a look. But Luke learns. He faces Darth Vader the first time, fails miserably. The second attempt after Obi-Wan dies, he's learned all the things. Stop being a brat, be a stronger person, learn to trust the Force. All these things, all these lessons learned, eventually, you know, he brings the downfall of the Galactic Empire. So that's basically the idea of the hero's journey. So I kind of want to open it up and see if, as a group, we can work out some solutions for people or to be able to talk about some of those things. So how, you know, if you've got questions, how can we make these practical applications in everybody's current businesses? Is there anyone who wants to volunteer to talk a little bit about themselves? Sure.
But I'm not a technical, actually.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's not really. Shoot. Sorry. Do I have another mic? No, they'll just grab that. He's got it. Yeah. How are you guys finding it? Are you guys sort of following along? Am I sort of? Yep, great. I really can't speak in an American accent, so I'm doing my best, guys. So. Australia.
What part?
Sydney. Well, I live here now, so like, yeah. Well, I'm from Austin now. Kind of. Oh, no, I think he was putting it on the charge, and I think it's charged now, so is it? The batteries. Let's. Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, I can. Do you want to just ask him to put the battery in? He said he was going to do it. Yeah.
I'll check with him.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
yeah. Cool. Come on up. This feels like a game show. Hey, how you doing? So what was your name?
my name is Cam.
Nice to meet you. Okay, we don't need this, guys. So like.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Cam, I'm going to ask you a couple questions.
Great.
So feel free to like chime in if you guys can think of stuff too. So I'm going to jump back to the diagram. Long way back. So we're really going to focus on the first kind of part. So, okay, let's go through this. Okay, so Cam, what's your idea? Like, what's kind of going on? Yeah.
So right now I'm an author, and I'm trying to segue into professional speaking.
Uh-huh.
And I'm really looking to find my kind of niche, like what I want to talk about. Because I've written a few different books, and it's like I can talk about so much different things, and it might be helpful to just narrow in.
Cool. That's a little left field, but that's great. We can definitely work with that.
Right.
Were you going to say something?
What are your books about?
Mental performance, so improving memory, focus, productivity, reading, learning.
Cool. Okay, so we know what got you sort of into. Okay, well, firstly, I'm going to ask you something about yourself. So, if you were to give me
Right.
5 or 6 particular things that you think are important or great about you, like that's a great place to start. Not just on a company level, but as an individual, what is in my wheelhouse? Like, what do you think you're really good at?
One of the things I'm really good at is I am a great writer now.
Uh-huh.
It took me a long time to get here, and my writing really resonates with a lot of different people, especially a wide audience. Another thing is pretty much my whole life I was never good at anything. Like I have 2 left feet, couldn't really speak well, would be terrified to stand in front of an audience right here. But I just never give up. No matter how hard things are, no matter how long things take me, I never give up, and so that's gotten me really far.
Well, so what I'm hearing, just some of the things I'm straight away hearing is determined, good, like strong work ethic. So if you start to hear in the conversation about what he's sort of saying here, you can sort of see these things are important to him. If he starts to work with people, or his product is designed for those who may not be geniuses at things but are willing to do the hard work. So that means that the tools that you create, so if you're writing a book, you want to provide the tool set for people who are like-minded, who think the same way. It's like, I'm not the most intelligent person in the world, or you may think that about yourself, or the most confident, but I'm willing to work hard. How do I do that? And so the types of procedures that you do and write will apply. You're not going to write on how a genius solves a problem, because it's not from who you are. So it's speaking honestly about your qualities. And so the SWOT analysis too is great. Strengths, weaknesses, what opportunities you can do, what threats are there to you. So have that analysis on a personal level as well. So we've already addressed those qualities. So the point that I would make, the next thing is like, what motivated you? Like, what was your story in terms of making you do that? Was there a particular event that started this whole thing?
Yeah, it was. I have this really weird, severe reaction to processed food. So pretty much everything in America, and it is.
Me too, guys.
Yeah, and it gives me like really intense energy and anxiety. It's like giving somebody cocaine. And imagine a kid growing up with eating that, day in and day out, week after week, month after month. By the time I was an adult, I was like really intense, really erratic, fly off the handle, couldn't communicate. I mean, I was like literally almost insane. So I had to get on a path to solve that and get to the point where I'm here, like much more calm and centered, and have much better control of my thoughts and all of that.
Great. So we have a clear call to adventure. So you can clearly document and say that. So in terms of your ideas and what your thoughts are, great. And then you said that your open goal. So what is your open goal?
I don't think I have an open goal, and that might be my problem where I'm at right now.
And that's probably the next step for you. Like, you can see how there's a progressive thing, guys. You can't work out a finite product goal or a service goal unless you have a broad understanding of who you are as well as what you're trying to achieve. So there are clear steps to work that out. Understand what your pathos is, understand what your ethos is, understand what your logic is. When you work all those kinds of things out, it's a progressive process. So there are so many tools and so many assessment things and conversations that you can have. But again, we're not going to have enough time to go through all of that. But the same thing that I've hammered down before is the people you work with, should have the same values. They need to go, okay, I can't work with someone who's not hardworking. I work my butt off every day. I may not be as smart as you. You may be super intelligent, but you're lazy. And I can't do with that. Some people might be the opposite. They might be super smart and totally relaxed with someone not doing things on a schedule. And that's totally fine too. But you need to understand who your tribe is, not just your working tribe, but your audience to market and product to. I think that's all we have time to sort of go through. We can talk a little bit afterwards.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, shoot.
So how would I go about finding my open goal? Like, what do I need to do? What steps do I need to take? And how do I make sure that it's viable as something that there's a market for and people want?
So once you kind of work out the world that you live in, okay, in which you sort of have, and what triggered you to do that. List out all the things that you've done already. List out all the actions you take and the trigger point, and then start to break it down. Like you start to go, okay, I know a lot about this. Oh, I'm really inspired by this. I'm motivated by this. Really write them down. And like I said, this goal doesn't have to be a specific goal. So it's not like I need to make this product by 2 p.m. tomorrow. That's not what we're doing here. At this point of the journey, you kind of just have to have like, I want to solve all of this problem. Like, I want to contribute to society this way. That's what you're looking for. So, yeah, man, you got to sit down and make a list. But
And then there can be multiple things at this point, right? I mean, it need not be one
yeah,
goal
Mhm.
that you have to fixate on, right? I mean, maybe it could be completely different from what you're thinking about right now. I mean, as you list it down, I think you'll probably find one thing that probably resonates with you maybe most. I mean, because a lot of people kind of experiment with different things and then find one thing that they can do or resonates with them most.
yeah.
Maybe fighting against processed food. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't want to take too much time, but you do want one goal, right? I feel like
No, so yes, you do want one goal, but really, if you take all of the smaller goals that you're talking about, understand what okay, a good example is myself. I started as my college degree initially. My first college degree was a musician. I trained to be a singer. I trained to be on stage as a singer, and I loved it. I ended up falling into music management. I ended up working for Dave Stewart and the Eurythmics. I don't know if you guys know who the Eurythmics are, but I ended up working for them. And my mom, she got cancer. So I ended up moving back to Australia, and I had to look after her. So I couldn't pursue music. And it was also very difficult being a singer, but working in management on the side of the stage. So there were lots of moments while I was on that journey. I was in a room with, say, Mick Jagger and Dave Stewart. They were writing a song together. And it was just before the iPhone era, so I couldn't really take photos. I was always super scared to take a photo because it's like, who am I to be pulling out a camera? So when I got home, I was like, what am I going to do? I learned how to take photos, and then I started posting them on Instagram. I ended up getting close to like 12,000 followers now. But the newspaper at home picked up on my story, me as a person, and they said, we'd love for you to come and write travel and food and other articles for us. They sent me to like Africa on stories. They sent me to Europe 6 weeks by train. They sent me hiking across Asia. So I had lots of time, so I went to film school. So the point that I'm making is like, I couldn't understand where it all threaded together. I didn't understand. I was like, why couldn't I just stay in music? Why couldn't I just stay in photography? Why couldn't I just do this? Why couldn't I just... And now I'm into branding and understanding human thinking and storytelling. I realized there is an underlying thread. When I was singing on a stage, I was singing the lyrics to someone else's song. I was telling their story. I was taking a photo, still telling a story. I was writing articles, obviously still telling stories. Making films, same sort of thing. I realized that the thing that drove me as a human being and how I felt I contributed to society was my passion for storytelling and the craft of it. So that's what I'm saying to you. Look at the things that led you up to where you are now, and that will guide you on where to go forward. So just quickly, I'm going to summarize. Establish an open goal. So if you guys want to take a screenshot or whatever, I can also send you guys the slide deck. Establish an open goal. What is your open goal? Establish your point of view of the world, so what your values are, what your ethos, pathos, your logos is. Then do a hero analysis, or analysis of yourself, as well as the hero's journey for your audience as well, and people that you work with. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses, opportunities, threats? When looking for your allies, try to find opposite skills to you, but have the same values. So when you're making job descriptions, when you're looking for founders or someone to work with, assess them against a clearly written out value system. Like, know what's important to you and ask them those questions. You know, it's a weird kind of question, but ask them, you know, do they share the same hard workingness? Like, find out, because you're going to feel it down the road if they don't. Find your tribe. And that's like the big point. So, I mean, I think that's a good coverage of what's going on. Does anyone have any other questions? Yes? No? Maybe? Yeah, shoot.
So when you talk about telling a story, you mention it more from the standpoint of selling yourself. Do you recommend, like, when you are starting a company initially, to sell your story and why you made the company, or instead to develop a company story to sell things?
People don't. People, especially small companies, you can't compete with a larger company on price. You can't. They have more buying power. That's a whole bunch of things. But you can compete on a personal level. And if you're a founder and you're a small company, people are more likely to work with someone who's great to work with and has a great story and feels the drive than they are with someone who's super skilled. Like oftentimes in the hiring process, you will pick someone who you like more so than the technical skills. And technical skills are a bonus, but oftentimes it's person. So if you're a founder and you have an idea and you built a company, you built it based off this inspiration. So a personal story is always better. I also think because it brings whoever's the corporate person down to a human level. And that's always important. Like, we're just human beings. I'm just someone standing here talking. Yeah, so does that sort of answer the question? Do we have any other questions, guys?
And also, just to add to that, the personal story also helps in, I mean, if actually you're going to investors for money and things like that, or if you go to pitch to accelerators or personal story also helps you, kind of give a credibility to what you're doing. So, because something that came out of your personal journey is something that you'll be interested in working on rather than just you're trying to clone another product, which would be generic and which would not be so personal.
I mean, like, everybody has a unique perspective. Like, I'm a Chinese Australian born Vietnamese refugee, first generation Australian who moved to America and now lives in Texas. Like, that alone, just the fact of physically where I grew up and where I moved to is a huge difference, even if we were offering the same product. My perspective of the world is completely different growing up the way that I did. So you definitely, share who you are, because that's what people are drawn to. Cool. So, yeah, shoot.
Was that something you came up with, the 3 types of alpha people?
No. So that also is in I think it's Gallup that produced that information. But they've done extensive studies with a whole bunch of companies, and that's what they worked out. You need those 3.
Alpha Angeles, so to have all of my people be alpha something.
Uh-huh.
We can all be alpha something.
Yeah, and the thing is, we all have crossovers. We're all going to have crossovers as well. So, but it's actually, the best way to think about it is not about finding specifically that role, but someone who's leaning that way. Like, I'm not going to be an operations person. I know that right away. I'm a big thinker. I'm driven. I really like deep thinking and looking at puzzles and patterns. I'm not someone who loves a schedule and goes, you know what? It's going to be great if we do that 9 a.m. and then at 9:02 we're going to do this. That's not in my kind of like wheelhouse. But yeah, definitely on Gallup, Gallup. If you guys want to get in contact with me, just there's a QR. Just grab it. I can send you out the slide deck too. Otherwise, just find me on LinkedIn or whatever. But I'm happy to do consultations as well. And also in February, I'm going to run a workshop, particularly on how this ties to branding as well. So yeah, that's it from me, guys. I hope you guys learned something from my concussed brain. So I could just be making things up too. So bear that in mind. Yeah, so I'll hand it back to... Yeah, do you guys have any other... Yeah, shoot. Yep.
You kind of talked about this, so I get the pathos, ethos, logos, hero analysis, strength, weakness, and then you kind of skimmed over the mentor, allies, obstacles, and
Same thing. So when you're looking for these people, they have to have, well, they don't have to, but it's suggested that they share those. Remember I told you to break down maybe 10 things that you love about yourself. Yeah, well, no. So part of the hero's journey, if I go back to the structure, everyone really it's kind of hard to do this explanation when it's small. Feel free to get up and look at the screen, guys. You don't have to stay seated. But when you're going through this journey, and the cool thing too, I wanted to really specifically say is, this applies to us as entrepreneurs creating businesses. So we have our regular life, we have something that forces us to change. We initially refuse it, even though the mentor says go. We eventually start the adventure. We try out different things. We find our allies. We find out who our enemies are. We make our first attempt. We make a bunch of mistakes. We learn from that mistake, and then we take the skills that we learned from our mentor and our experience, and we go and attempt the final battle to learn and achieve things. And then the cycle starts again. It's a circle, guys. It comes back around. You are a new person in a new ordinary world where a new event will happen again. It's the same cycle over and over again that humans on a really basic level use to learn and grow. There's not really much else to it. But the cool thing that I didn't finish saying is, guess what, guys? This also applies to your customers. It applies to who your audience is. They have a fragile equilibrium they're living in. They have an event that they need something, a problem to solve. Guess who the mentor is? It's you guys. You made the product. You've gone through the problem already. You hear the suggestions, and here's the services you need to get through what you're doing. You don't want to listen to me? Sure. Try out all these other things. Try asking all these other people. Go and do an attempt yourself. Okay, ultimately you failed or you learned all these lessons. Oop, the mentor shows back up again here, provides you the tools that you need to do it, which is you guys, and you go and achieve its success. And then you go and tell others about it, and the cycle starts again for someone else. It's the reality of what human life is. It's the reality of how we think, how we feel. On a basic level, whether you're making a tech product, a service-based industry, it's human behavior, guys. So, yeah, I hope that sort of answers what you're talking about. Cool. Well, yeah. Hand it back.
I think what you said about about it being a circle, in the sense that it happens again and again, is something that I think I can also look back into our startup and kind of see some parallels there. Because, say, for example, my co-founder was working on a product. He already had a product that's more like a CRM product that he was working on, and he was showcasing it to different folks in the hopes of seeing whether that's useful for people or not, because that came out of his own personal need for having a specific CRM product for what he was working on. But then when he was showcasing it to a lot of places, I think he also came here and showcased in the TechMap co-founders meetup that I talked about. When I didn't know him, it felt that he was trying to do a lot with a product that's already well established in the market, because there's lots of CRM providers, lots of competitors in that space. But then he was trying to he was early in his so to speak, hero's journey, where he was trying to discover what he wanted. And then there's one aspect that he actually wanted to do with that, is to find more customers. So in that process of finding customers for the app that he already had, he went on to different social media networks and tried to find who's talking about CRM, who's talking about certain issues with what they already have, the tools that they already have. And he found that as he was doing more and more research on how to find customers, he found that why can't I automate what I'm trying to do? I mean, I'm trying to find customers on social media platforms where people already talk about things publicly, what they like, what they don't like, what they need, what they don't have, and so on. And so he started building an additional component to his product to find potential customers. And he was at that time also doing his machine learning course and things like that. So he leveraged what he knew, and so that, the current product that we have right now came out of his need to find customers for his existing product at that time. And when he had that whole product and he was showcasing it to different people, he was also showcasing it to advisors and mentors at various accelerators and venture capital firms and so on. And one of the people that he was talking to, the accelerator that we attended in San Antonio, they said that, hey, what you're trying to do is good and all, but then there's like tons of CRM providers, and you're not likely to succeed if you try to take on the whole thing, by yourself, and you're trying to do a lot, which dilutes the product. And so they suggested there's one component that we really like, which is that finding potential customers. I don't think there's a competing product in the market that's trying to do what you're trying to do. And so they said, why don't you just focus on this? And that's their mentorship kind of helped him. I mean, initially he was hesitant to pivot because he already built a big product and he didn't want to just throw it all away and then just focus on just one part. And so after various rounds of trying to sell what he already had, he realized that importance of focusing on that one small piece that is unique, and that advice that he got from the mentor back in San Antonio really helped him to just focus on that. And that's basically when he, at that time when he was pivoting, is when he came to this meetup, and he was needing some additional help to do it, and that's how we met. But again, that's the hero's journey where he kind of had a personal need for something where he was trying to find his own customers, and then built a product around that, and that became he was a little hesitant to like throw it all away just for what and keep just that one piece. Is something that kind of resonates with me in our journey, because that kind of helped us to come to the place we are, because that's I mean, otherwise, I mean, if we were just still working on the big humongous piece of software, I mean, we would probably not able to get the customers we have right now.
I mean, the point that I hear from all of that, again, this process isn't for everyone. It's for those who are very authentic about, or finding the authenticity in what you're actually doing. Like, if you care about what you're doing, great. This is perfect for you, because you can take your vision, take your ideas, and understand what you need to do. If you're, again, just producing a business that you don't really care about, it's somebody else's idea that you're just copying and just doing it again, maybe this process isn't for you. Or you can add your own little flair to it, but that's basically the idea there. So yeah, cool. We good? Well, if you guys have any questions or want to talk to me, I will be around, so just come grab me. Sweet.
Thank you, Andrew. Round of applause. And then, I mean, if you like, I can distribute that slide deck with everyone else too. And so before we go, as I said, initially, after the main session, we also go to the audience and try to find out like who's working on what, who's here with what experience, because someone might just be here to get into the startup world, but may not have any startup yet, but they have some unique expertise that other people might find a need for. So we'll just quickly go through the room, maybe 30 seconds each, and just tell who you are, what you do, and then if you have any ask, like, hey, I need, I'm looking for venture funding, I need a contact for a VC, or I'm looking for a marketing person